Yeah.
Welcome to Peeling the Orange.
Hooray.
This is episode. I don't know.
You're doing them all in weird orders.
They've been
and stuff
all
like
over,
that.
honestly.
I think I filmed like 7.
What happens is we do these weird events, and then we all come together and we film a bunch of podcasts, and then they get released in whichever order OJ feels like, I guess.
Yeah, these podcasts don't even make me money. The first tail end of this trip was like $600
Yeah.
just to come here early because I wasn't filming anything.
Yeah.
I just want to get to know you, Kairos.
Well, gosh, I feel so special and important that you want to get to know me.
Yeah, last night we were talking about Lex. So I tell everyone this, and they're surprised that you have 8 siblings.
Yeah, I have 8 siblings, and it's a very weird family dynamic. So my parents have no control. I'm just kidding.
I think your parents are awesome. I'm just saying.
Lex over there with 7 kids of his own. Yeah, so my parents had 7 children, and they were very poor. Obviously, I feel like it's you can't have that many kids unless you make a lot of money, and for your family to not be poor. It's just that's a lot of mouths to feed. That's a lot of people. And so what happened was that those are my 7 older siblings.
So you're the youngest of the 8.
I'm the second youngest.
Okay.
Because there are 9 kids. I have 8 siblings.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but over 100 years ago, more kids meant more farm labor, so
Yes.
it didn't necessarily translate to being poor. But that was 100 years ago when
yeah, that was a long time ago.
before
and things were very
education was a
different.
thing, and you pop babies so you could have more.
Yeah,
farm
our
hands.
society is very different than it used to function, and so
Yep.
now, so my family had 7 kids, and they were very poor, and then there was a 7-year gap between my older sibling, my older brother, and me. I was a complete accident. Apparently, I burst through 2 condoms.
You're not even saying that
They
ironically.
double wrapped it. They double wrapped and still.
I tried to explain that
Kairos
to
was
my mom, like
meant to be.
yeah.
Shouldn't that be double the protection? No,
like-
for anyone that's watching, it actually decreases the chances.
Yeah,
significantly
it's more
for-
likely that there will be an issue, but my
That was
mom
some determined sperm.
by
right
that
there.
point, okay, so my mom had 7 kids of accidents, and then at that point she's like, I've got to figure out how to like track things, right? So she finally figured out, and she knew now is the time. So if we do this, we've got to make sure it doesn't happen, right? And I fought my way through, and I was conceived. Okay. So now the question is, you asked me if there was anything off limits. Now my question is, am I going off limits for the
No,
podcast?
me and Lex could go off the rails.
Yeah. So then I was born. But the thing is there was that 7-year gap where in that time, my parents had a little bit of time to like really not make a ton of money, but to go from the point where they were really struggling to support the family to being like, hey, we can actually afford like a decent home and be able to like, we don't have to stress about groceries anymore. And so I have my 7 older siblings, and then there's me, and then there's my younger sister. And they literally just had my younger sister because they felt bad that I was alone, according to my parents. I think there was a little bit more to it. They wanted a 9th. That sounds so weird.
What's the age gap between you and your oldest sibling?
20 years.
Oh, dang.
So my oldest sibling,
20.
So interesting story. My younger sister has a niece that is older than her. My oldest sister was pregnant at the same time that my mom was. And my oldest sister had her baby before my mom had my younger sister. So I've got a
My head
niece
hurts.
Right,
that is
exactly.
older than my younger sister. So that's funny. That's kind of weird. But it's actually kind of funny because they grew up being like best friends.
Was she,
OJ's head is
when
That's
she
odd.
grew up, was she like, hey, auntie?
It's a funny thing to tell people because people are like, it's always a shock value. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, this is my niece. Wait, you mean your cousin? No, this is my niece. Yeah, she's my aunt. This is my
They just
aunt.
do that for shock value.
And people are like, you mean cousin? Every time. Like, it's like, it just does not get comprehended. It's just kind of funny like that. So anyway, my older siblings grew up in a very poor environment. And then my younger sister and I grew up not in like a rich environment, but like.
How old is your youngest?
She's 2 years younger than I am, my younger sister.
Oh, you're not the youngest.
No, I'm the second youngest.
I thought you were the final accident.
So they had my younger sister because they wanted to make sure that I had a sibling.
Oh.
Because everybody else was so much older than me, there was no connection between me and my older siblings.
Are you closest with her then?
I'm actually not. I am. Like we had the same upbringing and things like that. But like I've got an older brother who's into video games and into like YouTube.
Is this the brother I met in Korea?
No, that's my other brother.
Yeah,
your other
brother.
He's
Did
also
I meet a
related.
brother in Korea?
You might.
I don't think.
I don't think you met him. No, I don't think so.
This is Brawl World Finals. How did he not come around?
He came around. We had dinner with him one night.
We did have dinner with him. So, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, probably. But he served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, typically people known as Mormons, right? In South Korea, in the area that we were in Busan. Actually,
During that time.
not during that time, before. And so when I heard, hey, we're going to South Korea, I called him up and I was like, hey, we're going to South Korea. Do you want to go? He's like, this is perfect. This is like the first time I have some financial freedom. I can make this happen.
And
My
he
wife
wanted-
and I,
he
let's
wanted
go.
to go back and-
So he wanted to go
Yeah,
back and like
that's
see
cool.
the places that he went. And he speaks Korean. And so it was awesome that he could go and do it. Yeah. Because he was there for 2 years trying to, talk to people about, like religion and things like that. And the only way you're going to do that in Korea is if you speak Korean. So part of that is to learn Korean and go and do that. I did the same exact thing. That's why I went and lived in Norway for a couple of years, actually.
And you can speak Norwegian.
And I can speak Norwegian.
You
Do you
should
still
I
speak-
I can
tell you
snakke
to have a
norsk.
Norwegian channel this whole time.
Do you still speak it pretty fluently?
I don't speak it. I don't have enough practice. I don't have anybody that I speak
Can
with.
you say Shelly's movement is strong?
So that's the problem, is that I didn't learn video game language. So I can have like a regular conversation. So like if I randomly meet a Norwegian, I can be like,
Where's the washroom?
yeah, exactly.
Can you say it?
Like, what are they saying?
He said the thing.
He could have. He literally could have just said, "My butt hurts," and we wouldn't have known any difference.
Yeah.
Rumpen min har vondt. That's how I say my butt hurts.
That sounds so much more elegant than saying "my butt hurts."
yeah. Rumpen min har vondt. Jag har vondt i rumpen min.
It sounded very sing-songy almost.
Yeah, they have a little bit of tonal fall. They go up and down.
Yeah.
So I kind of like to backtrack a little bit. And so I have this weird dichotomy where I have parents that are 40 years older than I am, right? I grew up with parents of the same generation that like Lex's parents were, right? And so like I have this
My
weird...
parents were born in the late 50s.
Yeah, exactly.
My
And
parents
so-
were born in late 40s.
Oh,
They were- so
wow.
yours were
So all
much older
three of
than
us. That's interesting. That is interesting. So like, I don't really connect with my generation so well as much as I do with people of the older generation, because my parents grew me up like the older generation, right? Like I grew up learning to work hard. I was always like working
Gen
with my
X,
dad and
right?
doing
Yeah.
stuff like that. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, but then I also have this weird thing where I'm a younger sibling. I'm a youngest in a sense because I have 7 older siblings. And when I say I have 7 older siblings, really like I had like 4 moms, right?
That
Because
sounds both awesome and horrible.
yeah, it is. I've got exactly. There's a lot of expectation.
Did you have a lot of them saying, "You shouldn't be doing this"?
100%. Yeah. And they treated me like their son. And so, but I view them as sisters, even though I also kind of view them as like moms. And so there's this weird relationship. But then I also have this weird middle child syndrome where I've got a younger sibling and I've got older siblings. But then I also have this weird older child syndrome where I've got a younger sister, because really it was mostly like I had 7 older siblings that kind of like, left to college and got married and things like that. And it was just me and my younger sister.
Right.
And so I've got this weird like mixture of like, I feel like I know everything and I also feel like I know nothing. And I also feel like I'm like, it's just a weird mixture, which is kind of funny.
I think that's why we all get along so well, because of our parents from the same generation.
We were brought up the same way.
It's funny how much that actually matters. So another interesting thing is I was homeschooled and I did private school and I did charter school, and it has nothing to do with like, in fact, my parents couldn't afford to put me through like any expensive schools or anything like that. It's not like that. It's just that my parents were very distrusting of like public education, and they were they're also very distrusting of government, and they're also distrusting of, my parents are very strange. They're also like, I grew up vegan and vegetarian and stuff like that. Like my parents are a little bit interesting.
When did you have meat for the first time?
Oh, I don't remember. The thing is it was never important to me.
Well, if you've never had meat and then you had it one day, I feel like the first time you just have a stomach ache because you don't have the butt-gyom to digest it. Do you remember that moment? Where you just didn't feel good?
Meat was less of an issue. It was more so with dairy, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And now you just bought yourself a grill.
I did just buy myself a grill.
How do your parents feel about you just, you're going to be grilling it out and eating the meat?
I have
Are they still vegan?
like kind of. The thing is they weren't vegan out of like like a moral sense or anything like that. It was more like my mom had a lot of health issues and she was just trying to figure out how she could like have a good diet that made her feel good. It wasn't like, oh, we're disappointed in you for not being vegan or vegetarian or whatever. It was more just like, this is how we eat because this is kind of what works for mom, kind of a thing like that. And so I'd go to friend's house, I'd have pizza and and I wouldn't tell my parents because there was also a little bit of shame. My parents would be like, oh, you shouldn't be drinking that, eating that much sugar and stuff like that. So I have like a really bad sweet tooth. Because
you do.
I do. And
like in your desk, you have like
I have
a
pounds
drawer
of candy.
Just candy. Right?
Yeah, it's really bad.
Do your little girls know about that?
Oh, they do.
Do they go in there and
they do? They come in.
Do they
Oh,
raid
Dad,
your
can I have
sweet
a
drawer?
treat? I have a rule of 1 treat a day for them, and they come in and they definitely utilize that rule.
They have 1 treat, but you're allowed 1 bag.
But that's the thing is with them is that I've recognized that I had an unhealthy desire for sugar, a big sweet tooth. And so I also went to school for like my bachelor's degrees in exercise physiology and sports nutrition is what it is. So I have an understanding of nutrition.
You were pursuing your master's?
My doctorate in physical therapy is what I was doing.
Right.
And so I have a good understanding of it. And I recognize in college, like if I treat my kids like my parents did, then they're never going to learn self-control. It took me a long time to actually learn self-control when it came to like sugar and stuff like that and foods that I eat, because I would just be like, oh, salt and vinegar chips and eggnog all the time.
Oh, I hate eggnog.
Oh, I love eggnog. Specifically with salt and vinegar chips. It's a little bit weird.
That is a little strange.
Yeah, but I've got interesting taste buds. So anyway, I don't, my kids, like we have snacks and things like that. I want them to learn to eat the right way. And what's important is that if we have Halloween and they are binging on candy, then afterwards when they're feeling sick, I make sure and I point that out to them. And I'm just like, oh yeah, they're like, oh, my tummy is not feeling very good. And I can be like, this is why. And they're like, oh, that's interesting. And I feel like me teaching them through that experience has been like really great, because now like my oldest daughter, she's 7. She'll just be like, oh yeah, I'm going to have a popsicle, but I only want just one because I don't want my stomach to hurt later. And so like, I don't know.
My kids would be like, more popsicle.
Yeah, we've got.
That was me.
Yeah. But then the next day they'd be like, popsicles sound great. Let's get more.
I honestly think I have a binge eating disorder, and it's a lifelong struggle for me because of that kind of upbringing. So I'm the exact same way as our kids. Oh, I want 4 popsicles.
Well, that's how I was too.
Give me more.
Yep, absolutely. That's how I was. Sugar and like all that sort of stuff. Like I could eat ice cream for days, even though I didn't build enough lactase in my system to be able to digest it well.
That was probably like a good time when you go spend the night at a friend's house and you're like, oh,
dude,
this is my night out. I'm going to be
Dude, my friend would have Mountain Dew and I'd be like, oh, dude, he has Mountain Dew. I can drink Mountain Dew. That's great.
Oh, man.
And now I don't even drink caffeinated drinks because I just don't like the way it makes me feel.
Occasionally.
But when we're on trips, you see me drink more caffeine than I ever do anywhere else.
Like when we're go to Finland, I know that we're about to have a good time. If Kairos is like, give me a Coke. I'm like, oh, snap. KT's getting some caffeine. We're about to be on.
It just wires me so much. Everybody has these different levels of tolerances because I never drink it. But that's also kind of nice because like if we're doing a Brawl Stars update and I've got to stay up working late or something like that, I can just go grab a Dr. Pepper or something like that. And like it wires me.
Have you ever had a Red Bull?
I have. When we did the Red Bull MEO and we were only allowed to drink water hiding underneath the table. Yeah. And when we had the Red Bull. And so I was like, yeah, I drank a little bit. I drank half of a can. And you might recall that at some point during the stream, I handed the rest of it to you. I'm like, I can't do it.
I don't remember that,
I'm
but
like,
I probably
wired.
drank it.
Oh, you did. You pounded it. You were like half a cup or half a can, sweet. And you drank it all right then.
Yeah. I'm a caffeine addict.
Yeah.
Big time.
I actually save my caffeine tolerances. It's one of the few drugs out there that resets your receptors and you can deload after 2 weeks.
You can.
So I'll kind of like...
Wait, what is this?
If you go off of caffeine for about 2 weeks...
That sounds horrible.
It is. And you might get a headache the first few days, but your tolerance goes back to 0.
Yeah.
And then you can get jacked up on it again afterwards?
Yep. So...
Oh, no.
Right now, I could drink like 10 cups of coffee and feel a little bit and maybe need to pee a lot.
Yeah.
But if I deload completely, I have a sip, I'm just wired and ready to
make
update videos.
I miss that feeling.
Yeah, you just have to
miss it.
You just have to wean
I
off.
hate that
No,
feeling.
just coffee is just like, because I drink a lot, as you guys know, a lot of coffee. And so like it's just like it doesn't like jack me up at all. It just makes me feel normal. That's how you know you're addicted to it. It just makes me feel normal.
Yeah, not me. I don't drink coffee.
Have you ever had coffee?
If I have, I haven't had so purposefully. I mean, maybe now's an interesting segue into religion if you guys are good talking with it.
I'd love to, if you're open to that.
Yeah, so I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It's a Christian religion. Some people might not call it Christian because people frequently call us Mormons, right? The reason why we're called Mormons or people call us Mormons is because of the Book of Mormon, which, like, if you have like the Bible and it talks about Jesus Christ, the Book of Mormon is another book about Jesus Christ as well. And so people call us that because of that. And it's interesting because, you know, my perspective on religion has definitely changed over the years. And the reason why I don't actually like typically talk about it very much on socials and stuff like that is because I don't want anybody to think that I feel like I am better than anybody else because of my religious beliefs. Because I feel like a lot of people feel that way. You guys ever, like, people that are really open and public about their faith, like, do you ever feel like they look down on you or something like that? Or maybe not. I know that has been a concern for a lot of people, and they don't like hearing
I don't know if I would say that people like feel better than. I think that I can get the idea that people would feel like they're being judged.
Yeah, that's the thing that I really want to avoid. I want people to recognize, because, like, for me, true Christianity or true religion is really about loving other people and accepting them and wanting to treat them like you would treat yourself, or even better. You know what I mean? I feel like that's what it boils down to me. And so whether or not Christianity is like the true religion, for me, I feel like it's more important to show people love and acceptance than it is for me to say, I'm a Christian and you're wrong, or I'm a Christian and I'm better than you, or I'm a Christian and I'm judging you because you think something else. I feel like that's completely the wrong way to look at religion, right? That's how I feel, at least.
Some people feel like it's a get out of jail pass because they believe in
100%. And I don't think that's right.
Yeah. I think that regardless of your beliefs, that you should just be a
good person.
An okay person, yeah.
See, and
good
that's
person's a high bar for me. Like, can I just be okay?
Yeah.
Well, that's just because it's hard. Life is hard.
It is hard. Yeah,
And
life is hard.
Being an okay person is not always easy to do.
Yeah.
Because at base instinct for, I think, pretty much everybody. And there's a song by a guy named Derek Webb, and the hook of the song was that we're all crooked deep down.
Yeah.
And I think that that's true. Like
is.
at your very base instinct, everybody is crooked. And
Yeah.
it's how you overcome that base instinct in yourself.
Yeah.
I think Nate Schott said this very well, that everybody has an ego. It's about how you use it. Because I think, like, it's just human instinct and how we all are. Our brains are wired that way.
Ultimately, for me, what's important about religion is that, at least what has been good for me, is the fact that I feel like it's good to think that this life matters. And I think it's been helpful to me to think that, you know, my actions now have an impact that lasts. And so it's encouraging for me to be good to other people. You know what I mean? You know, I don't know if there's life after death. I really don't know. I like to believe that there is, and it makes me feel good about being a good person because I feel like what I do now does matter, and it gives me a reason to try and be a good person, if that makes sense.
Sometimes I have an existential crisis.
Yeah.
And I'll just think, man, why am I even recycling right now? The universe is just going to have it's just going to be a heat death.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, what's the point? Like,
Why am I recycling right now?
I think the hard
Yeah.
part for me with religion is that I have a very like not analytical, but
logical, or
yeah,
you
like
have a logical
like
perspective?
so I have a hard time
Yeah.
rectifying the difference between lots of times science and religion.
Yeah.
Because like science is science.
Yeah.
But then there's also things that you're like, well, you can't really explain everything. But I have a hard time with that.
Well, and I agree with that. And like, you know that I am a very logical person as well. I mean, I went to college and studied, like, you know, like scientific method is like law, right? At least the way that I look at it is that if religion is actually like a real thing, it functions through scientific principles. That's how I look at it. Like, you know, like in the Bible, it talks about like, you know, 6,000 years, or like God created the earth in 7 days or something like that. Like how I look at that, because I do believe in, oh my gosh.
Well, I mean, just in that
Evolution. Yeah, I think evolution is a thing. I think that I think the Bible talks about God creating the world in 7 days, but my perspective is that 7 days is just like
what time's a
time
construct,
periods.
right?
Like there at first, you know, light happened. And then next
when time is infinite, if you're speaking about God, time would be infinite. What's 7 days? 7 days is our terminology.
Yeah, see, for me,
What's 7 days?
religion and science have to coexist in order for religion to work. And
Space and time are non-linear.
they are, exactly. And it's weird. If you look at like quantum physics and things like that, there's so much that we
All right.
don't understand.
I have to ask it, KT.
Yeah.
Because everybody's going to be thinking it in the comments right now.
Yeah.
You're Mormon, so where are your other wives at? I'm just going to say it. And I know the answer to this because we've talked about it. But anyways,
Yeah.
Why don't you have, what's up with the polygamy?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So I only have one wife, and I love her. In fact, she's fantastic. She's absolutely
Shout out to
phenomenal.
Michelle.
She's really fantastic. Yeah, so polygamy is an interesting thing. And I actually have slightly different beliefs about polygamy than maybe most members of the church do. I think that personally, I think it was a mistake. In the end, I think that religion is just like about deepening your relationship with God and also about becoming a better person. That's what I think that it really comes down to. And I think that some mistakes were made, and maybe people within my same religion might just disagree with me, but that's how I feel about it. But if you look at like what the church's stance was, is that it was at that time, it was allowed and it was good and it was acceptable and it was fine. And then the stance changed because it was no longer appropriate, kind of a thing like that.
So polygamy is not something that the current, Latter-day Saints church would approve.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
There are.
I think that people still believe that that's still like a present day thing, that's still cool.
So there are sects, which is a branch off of a
you say
religion. Sects.
Oh, okay, never mind. I was interested for a minute, but now
Sects.
no.
Yeah.
There are sects that have broken off of the church that still practice polygamy, but they are not wide stance, and it's not. So like there's even television shows about the Mennonites and stuff like that talk about stuff like that. In fact, where I live, there's actually a lot of Mennonites, which are people that are currently practicing polygamy. And so that's like a big no-no for the church now.
I think that'd be really fun for like a week.
Dude,
But then
I
after,
couldn't.
but then after that, it's like,
Yeah.
how do I?
I can barely keep one wife happy. Like, how am I supposed to do? No.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing though, is like if you look at religion and it's in the history, a lot of people have a hard time with religion because of all the people using religion as a way to justify their actions.
Yeah.
And
I want to do this, so we're just gonna write this in real quick. And
yeah, and I think that that's wrong. I think that using religion for anything other than treating other people better is wrong. That's how I view it. And so that's why it's useful for me, and that's how I live in a world where people view religion as bad and evil in a sense. And still feel good about it, because for me, it's about my personal journey to becoming a better person and to treat other people better.
I treat others the way that I would want to be treated myself.
Yeah.
But then I also have another restriction where I'll only be as kind to them as they would be as kind to me. So if my friend would drive me to the airport at 4 a.m.
You'd
on
do
like
that
last
for
minute
him.
notice, I would do that to him if I'm available.
Yeah.
But that's setting the boundaries. Before I would have a hard time with that, where I would give too much.
There's definitely a level of like sacrificing too much for others. Like you can no longer help others if you're not taking care of yourself first, I think.
That's a very good way to put it.
Yeah.
You can't love others until you love yourself first.
I mean, it's like Supercell in gaming, right? Like a lot of people are like, oh, we're free to play players. Give everything. But like if they don't actually like make money, then they can't continue to make games. If you're not taking care of yourself enough, then you're no longer going to be able to take care of others anyway. So like,
I have a problem with that.
yeah, I know you do. Because you're you're sleeping what, like 5-6 hours a day, if that, and like
No, I mean, not in terms of that. Like in terms of like, I will give pretty much anybody anything that they ask for.
yeah.
Like I'm
'Cause you're a
very
great guy.
No, I don't even think it's that. It's just like I don't know. I want to. I enjoy making other people happy, and I enjoy
Yeah.
being there for somebody, and I think that that's important. But perhaps sometimes I go too far. Is that a thing? Can you?
Oh,
can
it
you,
is.
Can you go too far in being nice to people?
I think that
if it hurts yourself.
if it hurts yourself.
I definitely have put myself in many bad positions because I've given too much.
Yeah. Now, that's not to say that you can't sacrifice a little bit for others. I think that that is very good and healthy. Like, if you've got a friend that's going through a really hard time and you don't have time, but you want to be there for them, I think it's good to like sacrifice for them and be able to like talk with them and stuff like that. Like, in fact, like if you just take a look at it from like a monetary stance, one of the scientifically documented best ways to improve your own happiness with money is to spend it on others and to give it, right? Like up to a certain point, like we've like if you don't have money, money's the only thing you think about, right? And once you have enough money to take care of yourself, then it's like, oh, that worry and that relief kind of like goes away. But after that point, more money doesn't make you happier unless you're spending it on others. And if you are spending it on others, that's the next level of happiness that you can get. And I think that we just look at money, because I just brought up money because it's like tangible and we can really look at it and think about it. And it's like, it makes sense to us. But spending time to help others also makes us happy. Kind of interesting, huh? Scientifically documented ways to improve your happiness with money is to spend it on others after a certain point.
After you're comfortable with your bills and everything.
Yeah, once you're comfortable, once
groceries.
money is no longer a stressor, then you can use it to improve your own happiness by improving the happiness of others.
Yeah.
There's very few things that are scientifically documented to actually make people happier. That's one of the things. Another thing is a gratitude journal.
Gratitude. Kurtzgazat did a really good video.
They really did talk about it. And that's something that
I love that
I
channel.
actually was very aware of that before because I learned about it in college, about being grateful and just taking time to think about the things that make your life good and happy that actually makes you happy. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a gratitude journal, but like just taking a moment every day to think about just one thing that you are grateful for. Just doing that once a day, even if it feels impossible, even if you have to fake it a little bit at first, until it starts to feel a bit more natural. That's one of the best ways to make yourself happier, even when you don't have a lot. It's kind of cool.
You got married at 21.
Yeah, so let's backtrack a little bit. So I did a little bit of like homeschooling, private school, and then I went into public school in high school. High school.
That's a very dramatic shift.
Yeah, it was. I was a weird high schooler.
You were that awkward kid?
I was so awkward. And I still am. Like there were just a lot of like social tendencies that I didn't experience very much because I was never bullied as a kid, but not because I was cool. It was just because I was never in an environment where bullying was acceptable, if that makes sense, right? Yeah. Like you get that in public school. You get that bullying and stuff like that. And like, I still have thoughts of like, oh yeah, I did something stupid and somebody said something and it hurt my feelings and it's like a core memory and I'm never going to forget it because I that one moment.
It's a core memory.
But like I was never bullied, even though I was so weird. And so going into high school, I had this really unique perspective of I had the time to develop this concept of I don't care what other people think about me before I go into high school, but I wasn't socially aware enough to really deserve that feeling, if that makes sense. Like I would go and I would do these super weird things. Like my first day, I come to high school and I wear sweatpants and an orange tie-dye shirt. And like the only person who would talk to me that entire day was actually my wife now. But back then she was like, this guy is so weird. She only sat next to me because she knew my older brother actually.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think it's important though, having the mindset of not caring what other people think about you. I think it's a lot harder now with social media.
Yes.
But I think that that's a very important trait to have. To be able to have.
I was incredibly lucky that I had that perspective. And I think that I would have gone through public school, I would not have had that because I feel like in public school, it's so much about, how people act, what people do, what they wear and things like that. And so I was really lucky to go into high school with that perspective, but it almost gave me this false sense of confidence that made me just like say stuff. Like I was almost unaware of when I would say something that would hurt people's feelings. In fact, I still struggle with this where like I kind of look at things through such a logical way that I like will say something and then like I'll look back 10 years and I'm like, man, I probably really hurt that person's feelings.
I still struggle with that because I'm known to be very direct and blunt and very logical with it, with no ill intent behind it. But it sounds like I'm coming off as a dick. Like, oh, you didn't hit 12 wins in the challenge because you did this and this incorrectly. It's like, yeah, thanks for telling me I suck. I know I lost.
But I love when people are very direct with me.
Yeah.
Very blunt. Like I don't get my feelings hurt very easy.
Yeah.
And so, but I think that maybe that's also a generational thing as well.
It's kind of like you have to be tough.
Yeah. I mean, because you were brought up in that way. Where You have to have that mental fortitude.
Yeah.
Those powdered eggs really toughened you up.
Dude, those powdered eggs
From the last episode.
I want some.
Yeah, you guys got to watch that episode. That was great. So I go to high school. Actually, interesting story. So I met my now wife first day of high school, and it was funny because I don't know if there's any stock in this at all, but I'm sitting down waiting for my first science class in Mr. Cluckhone's class. That's right. His last name was Cluckhone. I don't know. And I have this thought, turn around because your future wife is going to be right there.
What?
Yeah.
That is an intrusive thought.
Right? Now, I had weird thoughts like that as well. Like, you know how like you just like think stupid things when you're a kid, like, oh, what if like I married that person, right? Or whatever. But I had that thought and I turn around and there's Michelle. And like she comes and she sits next to me. Okay, this is first day of high school. I'm in public day for the first time ever. And she's actually nice to me. She was the only girl that was like nice to me and like wanted to have a conversation with me. And I was like, this girl's awesome. I really think she's cool. Well, she was dating somebody else. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll ask her out later when she's not dating somebody else. Well, by the time I find out she's not dating somebody else, she's already dating somebody else. And this is the story throughout all of high school. She's always dating so many
Kairos,
guys.
Always one day short.
Oh, man,
one day
every
late.
single time. But we were really good friends during high school. And like we did choir together, we did show choir, and we spent a lot of time together. She got me my first job. She was my supervisor at Cold Stone, which was fun.
What's Cold Stone?
Cold Stone
Ice
is an
cream.
ice cream place
Oh,
where
okay.
they take
they
take ice cream, they
like
put it on a
Marbles Lab.
frozen stone, exactly, and then you can mix stuff in it while the ice cream stays cold. Cold Stone.
So what's your favorite ice cream?
It changes, but I like Haagen-Dazs coffee, Haagen-Dazs strawberry, and Earl Grey.
Oh,
But I like to make my own Earl Grey ice cream.
interesting.
I'm gonna go very basic. Mint chocolate chip.
That's really good.
Just a classic. It's good.
If I'm going to Cold Stone though, I get their cake batter ice cream.
I've never been there.
Oh, it's really
Cake batter
good.
ice cream?
Cake batter ice cream. I mean, they literally take the cream that you use with ice cream and then they put cake batter into it.
Interesting.
And like it's delicious. Cake batter ice cream with like brownies and marshmallows.
I actually don't like eat ice cream hardly ever.
Yeah.
I love ice
I
cream.
actually don't have too big of a sweet tooth. Like very opposite of you.
Yeah.
Like I like pastries and bread and cheese. I like that. That's all me. But
Yeah.
I'm not too much of a sweet tooth kind of guy.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why I don't like ice cream that much.
No, ice cream's
I
good.
like it. I just don't. It's not like something like, yeah, I want some ice cream.
Yeah.
It's just never a thing.
So we are working at Cold Stone together. This is after I graduated high school. I realized when I first met her, I was like, oh, turn around, your future wife is there. Like, I was just that weird thought, right? But like, there was never an opportunity to really date her because she was always dating somebody else, right? But we became such good friends. And there was this funny situation where she was dating one of my friends, or one of my best friends, actually.
Is he still your best friend?
No,
Yeah, because you stole Michelle from her.
well, we just kind of lost touch, really. I don't know. There's...
No, you grow up and it's
Yeah, high school's weird.
interests.
High school's weird. Anyway, so we're really good friends, but he wasn't the best boyfriend to her. And so like he kind of like tried to ghost her, which is weird when you're dating somebody, right? So he tried to kind of like ghost her a little bit. And she is so dedicated. Like if she's in a relationship with somebody, she will stick it with that person forever. And so even though she kind of knew that he was ghosting her, she needed him to like break up with her. So like I would go to him and I was like, hey, you got to break up with her. And he was like, but like I don't want to, but like I don't want to be with her, but like I had such
he
an
was a
awkward
coward.
conversation. He was kind of like coward, yeah, but he's a really cool guy. I'm making him sound like he was an awful person or something like that. He's a really cool guy. I really look up to him a lot. But anyway, I eventually get him to break up with her, but he breaks.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was like, hey, I kind of want to date this girl. Like if I, and she's not going to date me if she's dating this guy, even though they're
hanging
not
on to the
dating.
last
Exactly. She's hanging on. Like I need him to break up with her. And so he's aware of this. She's aware of this. We're kind of all aware of this situation of where like I kind of want to date her and she's hanging on to him and he doesn't want to break up with her. And so he's finally like, okay, fine, I will break up with her. So he calls her up on the day that she gets her wisdom teeth pulled. She's drugged up on Vicodin because she had her wisdom teeth pulled. And I'm over there with her, comforting her. I brought her a jumbo and stuff like that. And he's like, hey, we need to talk. And she's like, can we do this any other time? Like, you've been not wanting to talk to me forever. Like, what? Why now? He's like, no, we need to talk. And she's like, okay, fine. And then, so he shows up at her house. I'm there. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'll see you guys later. And he's like, actually, I think that you should come. And I'm like, what?
Oh.
Okay. So I'm in the back of the car while they're in the front.
Ooh.
And he's breaking up with her.
Oh.
And I'm in the back seat.
That's an awkward spot.
So I'm sitting there
Is she all drugged up right now?
yes,
Oh,
yes.
no.
So she's all like,
Is this a dream?
yeah. So he's breaking up with her and she's like, okay, well, why the heck is Kairos here? What is he doing here in the back seat? And he's like, well, I think that you guys should actually date each other.
This is a horrible time to do
This
that.
is so bad. And I'm sitting there like, Okay.
Part of you's like, yes, but not right now.
So her famous last words are, she gets out of the car, he gets out of the car, and as she's slamming the door, she says, even if I'm not dating you, I'm never gonna marry Michael, which is me. I'm never gonna marry Kairos. And I'm sitting there like, okay.
Oh man.
She said that out of anger in the moment.
Yeah. So anyway, long story short, I convinced her to finally date me. She doesn't want to date me because I've officially been friend zoned, right? I'm in the friend zone.
While you were holding her hand while...
I'm holding her hand while she's getting broken up with and Viking and all this stuff like this. It takes months for me to convince her to get me out of the friend zone. I finally am able to do that. And the interesting story here is that, so I go on this mission, right, for my church, right? And
Just to Norway.
for 2 years, I propose to her before I leave.
You got to lock that down before you go.
I lock her down.
You gotta lock
I
it
get
down,
a ring
man.
and everything. I propose to her like literally a couple days before I go. She says yes, and I leave. And the thing is when you're a missionary, you don't call, you don't like you write letters.
Why?
Okay. Because like there's this whole concept of like as a missionary, the focus should be like on religion and also be what you're doing. You don't want to be distracted with stuff that's going on. They highly typically discourage people having a significant other at home waiting for you, right? And so like, but they also do it with like family and friends. I think that things have gotten a little bit less strict now. Like now you can like call, but like what we would do is you would call on Mother's Day and Christmas. And that's when you would call. But otherwise, if everything was handwritten, it was kind of like this old system where like back when technology wasn't a thing, that was the only way you could communicate with people over long distances, right? So that's what you did. And it just took a while before the church would be like, okay with updating things, you know, like that. It just, it sounds like kind of like cruel or whatever, but it wasn't actually cruel. It was just kind of like, hey, when I leave, I'm going to go on my mission and I'm going to become a new person kind of a thing. You know how people will go on big trips or whatever and like discover themselves? Like you almost have like this rite of passage of like going and doing something really difficult. Like, you know, people throughout the world have different forms of this. Like you go and you climb this hard mountain.
Pilgrimages.
Pilgrimages or whatever. And you like discover yourself kind of thing. That's kind of what it was like for me. So anyway, I leave for 2 years, go to Norway, learn Norwegian, speak to a bunch of Norwegian people, get the door slammed in my face all over the time. It was great. It was actually a really cool experience. And then I come back.
Getting a door slammed in the face is a cool experience.
Well, I mean, it's hard, but I learned a lot about people during those 2 years, and I learned a lot about myself. And a lot of who I am is because of everything I went through those 2 years, because it was a really hard 2 years. It was the 2 hardest years of my life. But in a way, it was also like the 2 best years of my life because I just grew so much. Or not everybody has that. Right now, like the biggest thing you do is if like you leave school and then you like can go to college. That's like the most typical thing. But some people, they just leave home and then they like go and get a job and like they try and figure out life, right? And I had 2 years where I could really just focus on just life. And I didn't have to worry about finances during that time because of money that had been saved up. And also my parents kind of like paid for me to be able to go. The church actually doesn't pay for any of it. We pay for it to go, which is kind of funny and interesting. But anyway, I go for 2 years and I come back. And then, so we haven't, really had any conversation. We've written, we wrote almost every single day, and we haven't like hugged each other. We haven't like kissed each other. We haven't really had like long conversations.
How long had you known each other?
Oh, we had known each other for like 6 years.
And how long were you dating before you left?
Like 4 months.
Dude, you proposed that for 4 months?
Okay, but here's the thing. I had 5 years up until that point for her to become like my best friend. So like when did I start dating her, right? Like we didn't kiss until like maybe 3 months before, right? Or 4 months before I left. But like she was my best friend.
Wait,
we were best friends before that.
You didn't
you know
kiss
what
her until 4 months before you left.
Yeah.
And you'd been dating for 4 months at that time. So you immediately got in there and got that kiss.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. You've been waiting for 5 years.
Oh,
for
yeah,
that.
dude. I had been waiting. Yeah, exactly. So I come back, and then we got married 2.5 months after I came back.
Jeez.
So I come back after 2 years and we get married 2.5 months later, which in hindsight maybe wasn't the smartest decision. And I say that not because I've had negative consequences from it, because I haven't had any negative consequences from it. And I have this sense of like I firmly believe that people should date for at least 6 months before you make any lifelong decisions. There's actually like scientific reasons why, because like until you've been dating for 6 months, the level of like hormones and all the chemicals in your brain is like the equivalent of being on drugs, like actually being on drugs. And you can't make logical decisions for those first 6 months. And so my biggest advice to people is date for 6 months and just enjoy it and just have fun. And if you want to get married after that, then great. If you want to have kids after that, then great. If you want to live in after that, then great. But like, don't make any decisions before 6 months. Just enjoy it until then. That's like my biggest piece of advice.
6 months even still seems pretty quick.
That's very quick. That's very quick.
Is that why I date around so much?
Well,
Because you're chasing for that next drug, right?
Oh no.
well,
issues?
you have to realize I come from a community where it's typically where people do get married young and they do get married fast, typically, because we don't have sex before we get married.
Yeah.
Right. Or, you know, people do, but like, that's like what you're supposed to do is not have sex before you get married within the religion. Right.
Yeah, me either.
So does the butthole count? We can cut that out.
I'm pretty sure.
You don't have to answer that.
Yeah.
Okay. So
So anyway, people typically get married pretty early. And so that's like my biggest piece of advice is just like, don't make any big decisions. And honestly, one of the best things I would suggest, and this is a very unpopular decision, is don't have sex before 6 months. That's a big thing that I feel like that gives you a massive sense of clarity.
I don't have the willpower for that. I think that
That's fair.
If it was 6 months and then my leg just got grazed by the wind, I would just fall there and just it would just
happen.
I would just be walking, wind grazed. Oh.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's easy. For me, getting married young was awesome. I loved it. I have no regrets for getting married young. We have grown with each other through hard things. You know, we lived on food stamps. We went through, like, my wife had really terrible suicidal postpartum depression when we had our first kid. And that was really hard for both of us. And she's okay with that. Like, we can be public about that. And we think it's important for us to be public with that because we want people to recognize that this is actually a bigger, more common issue. It doesn't get talked about enough because it's a very serious thing. And we would have appreciated people being more open about it. But like we've been through these really hard things together and we have grown together. But that is because our relationship is so solid and we can talk about anything with each other. And we've built a form of communication where we know how to talk with each other so that we're not going to hurt each other's feelings if we ever disagree or or even if we do say something that hurts each other's feelings, we're able to like in the moment just say, hey, that really hurt my feelings. And rather than for either of us to get defensive, for both of us to just be like, oh, okay, let's take a step back. And like, your feelings were hurt. That's very serious. Let's discuss this and like try and just get at the root of the problem. And so like,
I'd be like, pussy.
yeah. So
I just realized I'm a very bad person.
yeah,
No,
you know, but
wouldn't do that actually.
But the thing is also I do feel like we really got lucky in our relationship because I recognized that like I've got so many family and friends that, you know, they've gotten divorced and that I've not been lucky enough to go through that type of relationship to recognize that what I've gone through is a fantasy in a sense. And so, because that's never been, our relationship has never been a struggle. It's having kids has been a struggle and we love our children and we still do. And like, it's fantastic now. Having kids was really hard for us. We did not like the baby phase. Some people do though.
Yeah, no, divorce rates are around 50% and most
Yeah.
of it is caused by finances, which is because when you're 19, you don't have
Yeah.
the career developed yet or anything like that. So you said you lived on food stamps. Mm-hmm. That seems a recurring thing. We got powdered eggs, powdered milk. I didn't even know powdered milk was. I need to try the powdered eggs. You hype it up so much.
No, now it's never going to be as good as you think. Maybe it's just because compared to real eggs, it's not too. It's a good facsimile. I mean, they are real eggs, but they're powdered. But powdered milk is just trash. Don't ever just don't do it.
Yeah. So I got home from my mission and we got married very quickly. And, you know, for me, it was important for me to not live off of my parents once I got married. Like for me, getting married was a decision not just to be committed to somebody else, but it was also like a decision to be on my own in a sense. Like we were going to make life work together. And we did that. We didn't get on food stamps until we had kids. But like we didn't own anything. We got this dirt cheap apartment. Like it was funny because I was going up to college and we drove up to go and look at this apartment, and we knew it was so cheap. We saw it on Craigslist. It was like $400 a month, and it was like the size of this room. Like, you guys can't see how small this room is. It's not a massive size room, which, I mean, you grew up in a smaller place than this, right?
No, I'm like when my first apartment, like it was similar, but mine was like $400 a month, all bills paid.
Yeah.
In the trashiest part of town.
Oh, it was awful.
Like I remember I had neighbors who had potbelly pigs for pets, and in an apartment complex, and they'd walk their little pet Wilbur. His name was Wilbur, but that's actually makes sense because of the pig.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like actually growing up, no,
Yeah.
ours, we lived out in the country where there was just scorpions and everything
Yeah.
everywhere. Like scorpions crawling on the wall above my bed.
Oh, we had
it was
massive
crazy.
spiders. We had black mold. Like
Yeah.
in the place.
Oh.
It was funny because we saw the apartment, and we walk in, and it was like this sense of dread. We were like, dang it, this is all we can afford. But we have to live here because we can sign a lease right now, and there's nothing cheaper than this. So we're going to get it.
Yep.
And, it was a really fun 3 years before we had kids. We were so poor, and like I was going to college and I was studying. I did have a lot of scholarships, and also like Pell Grants. I actually made money going to college, and I used some of the Pell Grant money to be able to pay for like bills and stuff like that. But I also was working, 30 hours a week as well at a customer service call center.
Which you relate a lot to this day because of your experiences there that you learned.
At the call center, yeah, I learned a lot about how to talk with people in a way that does not annoy them. Whenever there's like an issue or a problem, I feel like I'm pretty good at like sharing feedback in a way that's not offensive.
A lot of people don't realize this, but the way you communicate with devs on Supercell, a lot of the things that you have been able to articulate have been changed in the game in Brawl Stars.
Yeah.
And potentially maybe we might even see it in Squad Busters or Clash Mini, because you'll write long paragraphs and it's like, okay,
Pages.
pages and pages of that where I'll read the entire thing. Like, those are all very valid points, and I think that the devs will appreciate that feedback.
Yeah.
The way you phrase everything.
And I can't really go into too many specifics, but there's like, and you guys can attest to this, but we've helped Supercell dodge some bullets, right? Where they've said, like, specifically the Brawl Stars team has been really awesome about like coming to us and being like, hey, what do you guys think about this? And like, do you remember when they were gonna rework the brawl, like how you unlock brawlers? There was a specific thing that they wanted to do.
Oh,
We can't say what it was.
Yeah. And we're like, no, that's not good.
It would have been awful. Like when they got removed brawl boxes, if
And
that
they
would have
still
happened,
almost went forward with
they
it until the
almost
very
went for
end.
it, and we hit it so much, but we really helped them dodge a bullet with it.
Yeah.
that would have been a big mistake if they did that.
It would have been a huge mistake. The customer service call center was great. But yeah, those first 3 years of our marriage was just really fun and awesome. You don't have to have a whole lot of money
Were
to be
you a
happy.
supervisor at the call center?
I was, yeah.
Yeah,
They
that's-
offered me a manager position actually, and I turned it down because I wanted to work on my YouTube channel before I went to my doctor program. They were like, hey, do you want to be a manager for this? And I'm like, dude, if I'm working full time, I'm not gonna be able to work on my YouTube channel. And I only have a year before my doctor program starts. I don't want it to be about making money. I want it to be about having fun
And
before I
plus, that
really go
wasn't
to my
like
doctorate.
this isn't like, even at the time, it's like, this isn't my end goal. This is not what
Yeah.
I want in life. So why would I
Yeah.
continue to try to climb the ladder at this place that I don't really see a future in anyways?
But I would have been managing a department of about 150 people, and it would have been cool, and I would have done a good job. But
You would have
I
been
don't
an
want to.
awesome boss.
I think I would have done pretty good.
Tell us how you were one of the best bridge spam players in the world at the time.
Okay, so Bandit is released, and I was just messing around with decks, and I found this deck. It had P.E.K.K.A, Bandit, and the Battle Ram. And I was just messing around with this deck, and I found this deck that was just so good. Like, and after playing around with it, I got just incredibly good with it. Like, I got so good to the point where I was playing Grand Challenges. Thank you. I don't even play the game anymore. Grand Challenges. And I won 10 straight Grand Challenges with this deck.
Which was really hard to do then.
Oh, that is ridiculous. The odds of doing that are astronomical.
Think about it this way. Every winner, there's a loser. the statistics of everyone on Earth entering the challenge, everyone should theoretically be 3 wins and 3 losses.
Yeah.
So to even hit 6 wins is
You're twice as good as everybody else.
it's
not
actually
like- it's more
complicated
than that. It's more than that.
So to hit 12 wins, it's about 1 in I think
It's like-
12,000.
It's like 0.05% or something like that.
Yeah. So for every 12,000 accounts that enter the match, 1 will hit 12 wins.
Yeah, it's insane.
And it's purely skill based. So it's not the odds of hitting that, it's the amount of accounts that enter get that. So you're doing 12 wins 10 times in a row. That
It was insane. It was
had a full mastery of that deck.
I could counter pretty much everything that was meta at the time. I could counter everything. And I went on did a Clash with Ash video with him, and he was like, okay, I'll try this out, I'll play it. So he starts playing it and he starts doing everything wrong, and I'm like, ugh. And I couldn't even explain to him why he was doing things wrong with this deck. I was never a pro, but I thought I was pro. I thought I was really good with this one deck. So I actually went and I started competing in like CRL and stuff like that. You know who took me out? It was Coach Corey.
Oh wow.
What?
I was smoking this challenge, this pro competitive stuff, and I was only using this deck.
And he was Rob Stark at the time.
He was Rob Stark. Coach Corey looked at the deck and he made this super weird, completely off meta deck that was only about countering my deck, and he beat me. And like it was, so he took me out of it, which was kind of funny.
Man, he countered you.
Yeah.
Now, when was the last time you actually played Clash Royale? Like not for like a video, but just for you, just because you wanted to.
Just for me,
Yeah, just because you wanted to.
I maybe picked it up when Heroes came out, but I don't even think I unlocked Champions.
You mean you didn't come back just to upgrade your heroes or to upgrade your cards?
You didn't come back because of level 15?
Oh, I was
'Cause they
so
both-
excited to upgrade my cards.
They both came out at the same time, and there's data that suggests everyone came back at level 15.
Yeah. I was creating Clash Royale content on my YouTube channel, and it was just like a fun little thing. I remember watching a stream of that OJ was doing and talking to my wife. I'm like, see, I want to do this. This is cool. Like, look, they just donated money to him. And she was like, why? And I'm like, well, I don't really know why, but they do it. And she's like, why? That's so weird. And I'm like, well, he's OJ. And she's like, who is this guy? I don't even understand.
And next time I see her, I'm gonna bring this up.
She was like, why?
You didn't want to donate money to me, huh?
She really didn't want me to do my YouTube channel, and it wasn't because we just had this really great relationship. We really like spending time with each other, and anytime we didn't spend, anytime I spent doing YouTube was time I wasn't spending with her, and so. But anyway, I was just like, I really want to do this. She was like, okay, like yeah, go after it. We've got a year between when I graduated from college and when I was starting my doctorate. So I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start it up, and I started my YouTube channel. Started with Clash Royale, and then after when Brawl Stars first went beta, I was like, this game, I love this game. And it's funny because I really loved the game, and I don't know how much of it was also like, ooh, this could be my next break in YouTube. Because I remember all of when Clash Royale was first released, there was all these YouTubers that were doing Clash of Clans content that didn't really grow at all. And then when Clash Royale happened, they all kind of popped off. Like Ash, not Clash with Ash, but just Ash. Ash Brawl or whatever. Like he really popped off and stuff like that. And you didn't create content with Clash of Clans at all. You just started with it. And I was like, man, OJ just blew up on Clash Royale. Brawl Stars, I was like, man, maybe Brawl Stars is my chance to blow up. Like this could be really cool. I could be really big in 4 months.
It's crazy that his name is Ash Brawl because he used to be Ash Clash.
Yeah. So
he was in CCGS.
Yeah, he was good. He was really good.
He was a top 16 contender in the world.
He was an incredibly skilled player. He's a very skilled brawler too. He's really good.
I think he would make an incredible coach.
Yeah, he would. So yeah, I was like, man, I could be if this works out, Brawl Stars goes global, I could be, I could have a YouTube career in 4 months. And then it was in beta for a year and a half
later.
It was in beta for
a year and a half. Oh, it was so long. I thought that YouTube was ever just going to be a little side project or a little passion project or something that was just fun. And then
So why can't we see your first videos on your YouTube
Yeah,
channel?
my first YouTube video is still unlisted. I think I'm saving it for my 1 million sub. I think I'm saving it for that. It was so bad. It was really bad. I didn't own anything. I didn't show a camera. I borrowed my friend's microphone. The audio quality was terrible. And which honestly, that really doesn't matter as much. You know what I mean?
The only thing that matters is good audio.
Audio is really important.
But you can get good audio with a $30 microphone on Amazon as long as it's near your mouth.
Near your mouth.
And these days, technology has come so far that Like anybody can make a good video that can pop off just with the phone that's in their pocket right now.
We're literally filming on Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultras right now. Like we're not using, $5,000 cameras with massive lenses and stuff
And
like that.
almost everybody has a phone in their pocket right now
Yeah.
that is vastly superior than what any of us started our channels with.
Yeah, really, if you need something, just get a good microphone.
Yeah.
And the camera can literally be potato quality. There's a reason why Mr. Beast films on not crazy equipment. Like he goes around and films a lot of it on GoPros.
The phone facing you guys right now would be overexposed on an actual camera.
It's true.
To the point where you would actually need big floodlights to overcompensate for that. So the computational strength of these happening in real time and overlaying everything to get the data so that you guys are lit is amazing.
Yeah, the technology that are in phones are actually really great.
The idea is way more important than the actual the gear that it takes to get there.
The first podcast was fuzzy because I filmed in 720p.
My first,
and
my
people don't
first
care.
video that I had that went over 1 million views, I filmed that video with $50 worth of equipment. I had a used blue snowball mic and a used borrowed webcam.
The worst is when people are like, "Oh, well, you can get it with 720p because you're OJ." It's like, no, it's the content that matters.
You know how long PewDiePie recorded in 720p?
His entire career up until like
Recently.
yeah, recently.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
but
what-
that's because of PewDiePie.
So what happened was I did that year, and I was just doing a year of just like Clash Royale content, and then I started my doctorate program, and there was actually a video that I did where I just was like, guys, I can't create content while I'm doing my doctorate program. This is just too much. Like it was just too much hard work. Oh, I'm getting a bunch of messages. I think that Tribe needs me. I gotta go. They need me.
We can pick this up later.
Are you good with that?
Wait, do we have a lot more to talk about?
I mean,
I feel like there's some more.
Okay.
yeah, we can talk about some other stuff.
Yeah, we stopped at the doctorate.
Or you could what's on your list? Do you have a bunch more on your list, OJ? Or you could give an outro just in case, so that in case this was it, that you could.
So Tribe needs you. I guess that's
Yeah, Tribe needs me.
peeling the orange.
We'll see you guys later.
Maybe that's the end. Maybe it's not.